Shot counting, part 1. Similar to the pip counting videos, I'm not offering anything new. This is simply my refined method that I developed for myself. Now we have a position, and we are winning this in a big way. And especially if we bring these two checkers in from the 7 point, we maintain our good position, and again, we're winning a high percentage of the time. But we roll 5-6. And now, we don't have a 6, and the 5 is forced. Now we leave a shot. Our opponent decides to recube us. Do we take? Now our first starting point for these decisions is what we learned in this video here. If we win at least 25% of the time, it is often a take. So we simply count how many of the rolls out of 36 hit this checker. We convert that into a percentage, which we talked about in this video. And now that we have a reasonable estimate of how many times this checker gets hit, we start to make better cube decisions. Now my suggestion is to always start by using a sentence. In this case, our sentence is, our checker gets hit and put on the bar with any roll that contains a 6. That's our starting point, and it'll always be our starting point even when the position is more complicated. So our sentence is, our checker gets hit with any roll that contains a 6. Now what if this was our situation? Our opponent decides to recube us. Not as much fun. We start with a sentence, and our sentence is, our checker gets hit with any roll that contains a 6 or a 1. This checker gets hit with any roll that contains a 6 or a 1. What if this was our position? This looks fun. Our opponent recubes us. What do you think of this position? Well, nothing has changed. If we think we win at least 25% of the time, it's probably a take. It doesn't look like a take. But if we win 30% of the time, this is an easy take. So this is why it's so important to be able to do this. So what is our sentence? That's always our starting point. What is our sentence for this position? Our checker gets hit and put on the bar. If we take, it's our opponent's turn. Our checker gets hit, put on the bar with any roll that contains a 6, a 2, or a 1. And that's our starting point. Now the purpose of this first video is not to go through all the numbers and percentages, but to simply introduce my way of visualizing shots and rolls. The method that I use that I find is very consistent and very fast for counting shots. I also use it for 2-checker bear-off, so it's very useful. Actual examples we'll do in the next few videos. Now if there's anyone here that doesn't like counting and doesn't like math. Now at the end of this video I have a fun challenge for those of you who hate math that I think will help you learn this, and more importantly, learn it and remember it easily forever. So my method for counting shots starts with a sentence, and that sentence contains all the information I need so I know how many shots there are and I can get my percentage. And that gives us our direct shots, our indirect shots, and our doubles. Our direct shots, if there are any, are most often the largest number numerically of how many shots there are. Our indirect shots are the secondaries, and the doubles 0, 1, or 2, if any. So similar to our pip counting, we went for the largest number first, largest group of checkers, then we went with the medium size, and then we picked up the stragglers, just a few at the end. And same way here, we go with the largest number, then the medium number, and then just a few that we have to count at the end. For me personally, I find this is faster, but more important than anything for me is that I do it this way every single time. And doing it consistently every single time is faster, and I find that it's more error-free. Now in this video, we're going to just be looking at the direct shots. We're going to add in the indirect shots and the doubles in the next video in part 2. And the way I like to visualize these direct shots is with my chart. And the reason I like using this chart is because I like to visualize concepts. This chart has multiple uses, and number 3, this is a great teaching tool. So, in our first example, we have the question, how many shots when our opponent hits us with any 6? So we can just look at any of the rolls that contain a 6, and we get this. The color of the checkers doesn't matter. So these rolls here, of the 36 rolls in backgammon, are all the rolls that contain a 6. And it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What if the position was just a little different and we were looking at possibly our checker getting hit with any number that contains a 3? It would look like this. Again, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you can pick any 2 numbers and it will always be 11. So that's nice. We don't have to worry about what number it actually is. And we've seen this number before, and we'll see it again. Now, if we look at our second example, when our opponents hit us with any number that contained a 6 or a 1, we mark off all the rolls that contain a 6 or 1, and we get this. 6, 12, and 8 is 20. So we have our second number, 20. What if it was any roll that contained a 2 or a 5? Same thing. Just like with a single number, that number doesn't change. 6, 6, 4, and 4. There's 20 rolls here out of 36. So for a single shot, a single direct shot, we have 11. For a double direct shot, we have 20. And if we wanted to look at a triple direct shot, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is any roll that contains a 4, 5, or 2. 4, 5, or 2. This is 27. And if you were to change which 3, it again would be 27. So this is a tool that I like to use, and we've seen these numbers before. When you're first playing backgammon and you start to get a little more into it, you start to want to play a little better, you see a video online, you get a book, some people at a local club start teaching you things, one of the first things you learn is 25%. In many cases, you only need 25% equity when someone cubes you for you to take. And that's not the way you were playing. If it looked bad, you dropped. So we learn this, so we start taking cubes correctly, at least a little bit more, where we were dropping a lot of cubes we should be taking. And then the second thing we remember learning are the numbers 11 and 20. 27 is in there, but these are the 2 of the ones that we use most frequently. And that's why these 3 numbers keep coming up. 25%, 11, and 20. And if you're just starting out in backgammon and you want to step up your game a little and start playing a little better, more competitively, these are the first 3 numbers that you're going to learn. And now you have a visualization of where those numbers come from. And the way I like to remember them is that for a single shot, it's just a horizontal line and a vertical line. And for a double shot, it's just 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. And for a triple, it would be 3 and 3. So let's look at these numbers and let's look at our first three examples real quickly just to wrap up this part of the video and see how that affects our cube decision. So here was our first situation where we rolled 5-6. We were forced to leave this shot. Our opponent recubed us, and if we get hit, we probably lose this game. Well, if we think of this, this is our single shot, single direct shot. A horizontal line and a vertical line is 11. We know that 9 shots out of 36 from our percentage video is 25%. This is only 2 more. This is 30.5%. And if our opponent only hits us 30.5%, we win almost all the time that they miss. So that means we're winning about 70% of the time. Maybe not quite that high, but about 70% of the time, this becomes a very easy take. But it's a lot easier if you have an estimation of what that actual percentage is, instead of just staring at the board, wishing you knew and guessing. But now we're learning techniques where we can quickly come up with these percentages. Our next example that we had a little more difficult of a decision. 2 direct shots. 2 direct shots on our chart would be 2 vertical lines, 2 horizontal lines. A little bit of practice, we know that that's 20. 18 out of 36 is 50%. That's easy. And this is only 2 more. From our percentage video, we simply add 5.5%. So we're 55.5% chance that we get hit. That means it's 44% chance that we don't get hit. So this looks a little scary. Our opponent doubles us, and the 44% time that they don't hit, we probably win very easily. That's way over 25%. We can take this cube without any hesitation because we can make an instant, and actually in this case, a very instant, very accurate count of how many shots hit. 20 out of 30 shots hit. And on our last example, we had this position, which looks like a complete disaster. Our opponent recubes us, and this just looks unplayable. This is 3 direct shots. 3 and 3 is 27, if you were to count them. And 27 is exactly 75% of 36. So if we get hit 75% of the time, when we don't get hit, this looks like an easy win. But that means we win 25%. We win the difference. And if we're about 25% to win, then it's a take. And this, believe it or not, is a take. Because we have about 25% equity. And the equity, our equity, is in our opponent's misses. We know how many times they hit us, and there's 36 rolls in backgammon. That means that there are 9 rolls that they don't hit us, and 9 out of 36 is 25%. This, as bad as it looks, is a take. So here's a fun challenge for players who struggle a little bit with the math side of things. And if you're like me, you learn this when you were starting out playing backgammon, then 2 weeks later, you actually had the opportunity to use it and play, and you forgot it. And then you have to relearn it, and then you forget it, and then you relearn it. This happens to most players. There are a few people who you tell them this once, you teach it to them, and they know it for the rest of their lives. So I can tell you 11, 30.5%, 20 for a double shot, 50.5%. Okay, great, you're done. But for most people, it doesn't work like that. But this is also something you can do if you have people you're teaching and they're struggling with it. You teach it, they understand it, but then they forget. If you know something, if you truly know something, you can not only know it and use it, but you can teach it. And you can teach it without any reference or cheat notes. So if you actually know this, you think you know this, you should be able to do this. There are 36 rolls in backgammon. And if we draw them out in a chart, they'll look like this. You're going to take a blank sheet of paper and you're just going to write it out without any hesitation because you know it. And if we're looking at a single direct shot, for example, you can pick any number because they're all the same, right? Doesn't matter which one you pick, it'll be 11. So let's pick any roll that contains a 6. So here are your rolls that contain a 6. And that's 11. 9 is 25%. We're going to add 5.5%. Trick we learned from our percentage video. 30.5%. There are 36 rolls in backgammon. This is how they look graphed out. If we're looking at a double direct shot, doesn't matter, you don't even have to put the numbers because it doesn't matter what numbers they are, it's going to be 20 shots. 20 out of 36. So if we mark off 2 horizontal columns and 2 vertical columns, we get 20 out of 36. This is 11 out of 36. 18 would be 50%. This is 2 more, so we're going to add 5.5. So that comes 50% becomes 55.5%. Pretty easy. We know the graph. We can mark off anything with a 6. We can pick any 2 numbers, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical. If you know it without any reference, any time of day, any day, you can take a blank sheet of paper and you can explain that to someone without hesitation. And when you can do that, that's when you know you've got it down.